A knight, the formidable sword-wielding slayer of the medieval age. A French musketeer, an elite soldier and personal guardsman of King Louis XIII.
But only one will be crowned Deadliest warrior.
Medieval knights. Oftentimes, they've been juxtaposed as the modern tanks of the medieval age as a result of their multiple layers of armor and brute strength. Perhaps the most noteworthy feature of the medieval knight was their protective attire, which consisted of mainly small metal rings or chainmail accompanied by a metal plate armor over linen clothing. The design of this armor was to stop the strike of a blade and shield damage from weaponry that could otherwise occur with traditionally cloth armor. Knights were often among the wealthiest of people due to the substantial amount of funding that went into being knights, as it was part of the feudal agreement where soldiers would receive fief or land grant for their service. Knight training began at the young age of 8 when a boy would be sent to the neighboring castle to begin instruction as a page with weaponry and chivalry skills as well as strength-building activities. At 15 or 16, the boy would become a squire in service to the knight by dressing him, serving his meals, cleaning his armor, and so on. Finally, at the age of 20, he could become a knight by proving himself worthy through a chivalrous act of sorts. It was by the code of conduct of chivalry that they promised to defend the weak, be courteous to all women, and be loyal to God and the king at all times. Knights often engaged in tournaments, which provided a means to practice warfare strategies while impressing fair damsels with their chivalrous courage. Throughout the period that knights were in existence, they used and developed many weapons and fighting strategies.
Our experts tested 4 knight weapons: the Morning Star, Crossbow, Halberd, Broadsword, as well as the knight's steel plate armor.
The longsword or broadsword.
Every part of the longsword was used for combat. The pommel for pommeling, the broad blade for cutting. And as armor improved, the blades became narrower and pointier for thrusting.
During the medieval times, this weapon was a powerful, versatile tool that had tremendous killing capacity. The Morning Star. Medieval weapon consisting of a club with a spiked ball attached. This weapon was used by infantry and cavalrymen and could do a lot of damage in trained hands.
Yeah! Oh, nice. Emptied his which means that warrior is dead.
A crossbow. A long-range weapon that fires mounted projectiles hooked up to a trigger mechanism. They were extensively used in combat, but they were phased out with the use of gunpowder weapons. A halberd. A two-handed pole weapon that consists of an axe blade topped with a spike mounted on shaft, used to fight in close combat with more of a distance placed between opponents. French Musketeers. The Musketeers of the Guard formed in 1622 when Louis XIII decided to put together an army of elite soldiers to protect him. These elite soldiers served as a combination of secret service and special forces with the main goal to protect the king and his family, which was no small task. To become a musketeer, you must have some connection to the French ruling class and a skill set superior to others at the time. Musketeers by characteristic were formidable warriors in battle due to their specialized training and skills in combat as well as horsemanship and other specialties. The French Musketeers served as a symbol of the ruling French monarchy as well as the status of symbol for King Louis XIII and his cardinal. Musketeers did not necessarily dress with personal protection in mind as they wore elaborate cloth uniforms, halberd-bearing cross, and a fleur-de-lis symbol. Simply any soldier bearing a musket was known as a musketeer, the only highly specialized training with all of the weapons and tactics can earn you a title of French Musketeer of the Guard. 150 to 300 men served at the time until the Musketeers were disbanded in 1816 due to a lack of funding.
The Musketeers retaliate with their own killer cache: the flintlock musket, the grenade, the wheellock pistol, and the rapier sword and main ghost dagger.
Flintlock musket.
Here's how it works. When you pull the trigger, the flint on the cock strikes sparks into the metal pan. This ignites the powder, which burns through to the charge behind the ball. It fires faster than the wheel lock, even though it is still a muzzle-loaded powder and ball weapon.
Wheel-lock pistol.
It works like this. Inside the gun, there's a steel wheel with a clockwork spring which is wound up tight. When you pull the trigger, the tension is released, and that spins the wheel. The cock has a piece of rock called iron pyrite, and the spinning steel causes this to spark. That lights the charge in the barrel. Now I gotta tell you, there's a trick to firing this thing. Take a look at the delay between pulling the trigger and the round leaving the barrel. It's about 1/3 of a second. That can be the difference between a hit or a miss.
Rapier sword. Slender, sharply pointed sword used most often for crushing attacks at close range. It was lightweight and used by the right hand, allowing for fast reaction time during fighting. The main gauche dagger. Small defensive dagger used mainly in the left hand to ward off thrusts from an opponent's sword. Many had features designed to protect the hand, and all were incredibly sharp to be used for stabbing. With all facts considered, there is only one question to ask.
Who is Deadliest?
While the knights have brutality and training on their side, the French Musketeers are the winner of this matchup due to lethality and advanced technology of their weapons, which have the capability to pierce their knight's armor at will.